Have transcripts too. Yes, transcripts. Okay.
All right. Good catch, Jackie, right before we get into the meat of it, right?
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. All right. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for discussion on the expansion of St. Bridget's Cemetery at 536 May 17th.
I will second that motion.
All in favor, Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
Okay, so now we can move into public speak time for St. Bridget's Cemetery expansion. Is there anyone wanting to step up for that?
I don't. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thomas Brown, yeah. So he's involved with the project. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
go
So,
ahead, Mr. Brown.
can you unmute yourself? Let me see.
There he goes.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know, my name is Tom Brown. I'm chair of the Finance Council for Our Lady of the Valley Parish, and I represent the parish here for this request, and I'm available to answer any questions anyone might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Beth.
Is there any other, anyone else that would like to comment on this topic, St. Bridget's Cemetery? Okay, so we can move on to Brian giving us a little high summary on what we're going to be deciding on.
Sure.
Question? Do we have to, do we stay in the hearing or do we?
Yep.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
just making sure.
Yep.
Our Lady of the Valley Parish, who runs St. Bridget's Cemetery on, which is at 109 Everett Street. They're trying to get approval for a project to expand their cemetery location. With their project, it includes approximately about an acre's worth of work within the 100-foot buffer zone, consisting of tree removal, site grading, and installation of storm waste management structures such as basins and whales, and also construction of a 16-foot wide cul-de-sac and a chapel building as well. Per Mass General Law in the Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, this needs to be, the Board of Health needs to host a public hearing and then decide on the approval of this project. This project has to go through several steps. It was approved prior to the Board of Health meeting today. It was approved by the Conservation Commission and also DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. And the Board of Health is this step, and then there's two more steps after that. It has to go to City Council, and then the mayor has to sign off. That would be the final step. So that's what you're deciding on today. If you have any other questions, let me know.
Was there any response to the abutters mailing that you sent out a little bit ago, Brian?
So I only had one phone call. It was like a week after I sent them, and she was just confused by the letter. She didn't understand the process. She thought that the cemetery was expanding and she would get kicked off her property.
Oh dear.
So yeah, but other than that, I haven't heard any questions or anything like that.
Okay. Can I just ask, what did you mean by the chapel building when you mentioned that?
I mean, if Thomas wants to clarify, he probably knows exactly what will consist in that chapel building.
Sure. About if you're facing the property from Everett Street, it's approximately 7 acres. It goes all the way back to Lower Mill Pond, and about halfway down on the right-hand side, the design calls for the construction of a small chapel. And that's for when they will have a variety of events there, mostly like Veterans Day. They might have a service there. Memorial Day might have a service there. There might be folks that decide to have a funeral service there as opposed to a funeral home or a church. It's a very small chapel. If you've ever seen the one that's in St. Stanislaus Cemetery, it's probably a little bit bigger than that, but it's not like constructing a church. It's a pretty small building.
Okay. And the greenhouse that's in between the current cemetery and the property we're talking about, that's owned by the parish?
That's correct. When we purchased this property, that included the house and the 3-car garages behind it. Just so you know, we are in the process with the planning board of subdividing that out. And if we cannot find a church use for it, that house may then go on the market.
Oh, okay. All right.
If anybody would like to live in the middle of a cemetery, that would be great.
Well, as they say, it will be quiet. Beth, do you have any questions, thoughts, concerns?
No, I don't at the moment. No.
Okay. Well, are you ready to make a decision? Call for a motion or?
Yeah, and yes, and we're basically approving the plan to move forward.
Yep, to the next step of approvals.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to approve the plan for the St. Bridget's Cemetery construction on 5/17/2023 at 5:43 p.m.
I second that motion, and this is the expansion for the Everett Street property, including the chapel building. If you could add that in, Jackie.
Yep.
All in favor? Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
All right.
I'm sorry, I'm having word finding. I'm like so tired from work.
I know. I have those days too. Mr. Brown, do you have any other questions or?
Thank you for that. And it was a little bit of a unique process just because no living person in the city of Easthampton has ever permitted a cemetery because our cemeteries are all over 100 years old. So it's a unique process for all of us. I just wasn't sure if the church would receive something official from the Board of Health to give us that determination of that approval. Or from Brian.
Yeah, I can draft up some sort of letter that states, on this date that the Board of Health approved it. Yeah, I can get that drafted up.
Perfect. And Brian, if you could
and
send
I'll
it out,
pass along. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
if you could send it out to Our Lady of the Valley or if you want to do it electronically, you can just email me.
Yeah, I'll just send it to you via email. That works.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. And then after this meeting as well, I'll pass along the information to both City Council and the Mayor as well.
Great. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess we can close this hearing and reopen
Okay,
our regular meeting.
sure. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on the St. Bridget's Cemetery expansion on 5/17/2023 at 5:44 p.m. and resume the Board of Health meeting.
I second that motion. All in favor, Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
Okay. And then I guess we have to make a motion to reopen
Okay,
the Board of Health. I'll make the motion to reopen the Board of Health meeting May 17th, 2023 at 5:45 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot of talking.
Not emotions.
Yes.
All righty. Next on the agenda is Big E, our grocery store, request to use the ingredient allergy sign in place of labeling individually wrapped bakery foods.
You guys want me to give you a little bit of an explanation? Okay.
Sure.
In both so just to kind of give you a little bit educated on the food code requirements itself. So the state food code requires that any individually wrapped food product needs a seal on a label on each item. And certain things need to be met for the criteria of those labels, such as like listing major allergens, the ingredients, the name of the company, the name of the product. There's even typically a weight requirement as well. Back in April of 2022 and also April of 2023, when I was doing my routine inspections at Big E's, I noticed that they had towards the back of the store in their bakery section, they have these like woven baskets, and they're filled with like bagels, muffins, assorted pastries, and they're individually wrapped in plastic wrap, but they don't have the label on them. So I explained this to Judy and Mike at Big E's, and I know that the reason this wasn't always their original setup like this. Prior to COVID, they had like bins with like tongs, and you could put them in a paper bag, like loose leaf. The customers could fill them in a paper bag. So the food code, the requirements of it are, so like if they do that route, a label's not required, but if it's a sealed package, if it's sealed, it needs to be labeled. So I cited them on both those inspections, and they have, I want to say it's about 8.5 by 11 sign sitting right above the baskets with all the individual items, and they're requesting to use that sign in place of the labels.
So,
Oh,
sure. I was just going to say, is there anybody here from
Okay.
Iggy?
Yeah. No, like Brian said, prior to COVID, we had
Could you just introduce yourself and
I'm
your
Sure.
affiliation with Big E's?
Sure. I'm Judy LaBelle, and I'm one of the owners.
Oh, okay.
Prior to COVID, we just had them loose, and customers could, like Brian said, could use the tongs or the paper or whatever. When COVID hit, we could no longer have naturally those open items. So we decided to put those items and wrap them in saran wrap. And those are the items that are just in the case for one day. We have, as I have brought, we have muffins that are wrapped in saran wrap. We have bagels that are wrapped in saran wrap, and our individual rolls, which are in saran wrap in that area. Now, we feel it's more sanitary that way. And for us to go then and put a label on all of those with the ingredients being up above, I'll show you our setup. I don't know if you'll be able to see the picture. I tried to take some pictures. As you can see, we have the items in the case, and up above there, we have signage with all of the ingredients in them as we had before. And only the items that are in there for one day, our bagels, our muffins, and our rolls, are the only items that don't have labels on them. Now, to put a label on them, they're large. They're about this big. The labels are, they cost over 5 cents each. It's going to be more labor. So we're asking for basically a waiver that the items are pretty much the same other than being in saran wrap. They're not, as I would say, packaged. Whereas we have in that same case, we do put labels on our chocolate chip cookies that are there for more than a day. We have our apple turnovers, they're packaged. They have a label on them with the ingredients because they're there for more than a day. But we're looking for a waiver that we don't have to label these items individually, because if we do, then we're probably going to go back. We're going to have to recreate another bin. The customers are going to be self-serve. And again, they're using the tongs, they're using the paper. It's, we feel, not as sanitary. And the customers do like them being wrapped, and they do stay fresher also. So that's what we're requesting, is that we don't have to label these individually items that are just wrapped in saran. They're not technically packaged, that they don't require a full label with ingredients, as long as we have the ingredients, visibly in place, like they would be if they were just loose.
So I understand your thought process, but this is a state regulation and we cannot go down from a state rate. We can make it stricter, but we can't make it more lenient. So you either have to individually label, because if someone has a severe allergy to something in one of those items and they can't identify which item has it, because there's not even a label on your muffin as to what kind of muffin that is.
When they're in the case, they are marked in each row of what they are.
But still, the state regulation is that each item be labeled with the ingredients, et cetera. And, God forbid someone had something that they shouldn't. And being from a nursing background, that's not healthy at all. And I would say that if you're going to continue to wrap them, you do need to individually label them. But if you go back to the prior pre-COVID way of doing things, you are going to have to put something, like if the chocolate muffins are in one bin, there has to be a label on that bin for what those ingredients, like putting it above everything defeats the whole reason for having the labels.
But if you go into, because I've gone into other stores to see how they have it labeled. I went into Big Y in South Hadley, and all they have is a sign there that says all of our products may contain the following allergens, a blanket, and if you want to know what the ingredients are, see the baker. We at least have all of the ingredients out there for all of the items.
Yeah, that's the state code, and what Big Y is doing, that's, obviously Brian doesn't inspect Southampton. So, but that's the state code, so we have to follow it.
Yeah.
So I can look in a little bit further into the code, the specific details of exactly what would be required if they transitioned back to that method.
Okay.
I don't know if it would be as extensive as the individually wrapped items, but there might need to be some sort of sign like Big Y has. So let me, tomorrow when I get back in the office, I will, I'll comb through that section of the code and I'll just confirm and double check specifically what Biggies needs to do if they want to go back to that method.
Yeah, because I just have a hard time wrapping my head around. It's the exact same item. It's got saran wrap on it. I don't consider it packaged, but I guess because it's got saran wrap, technically it's packaged according to the state. And I just feel it's more sanitary this way for the customers. But for us to add another 7 cents to each one of these items, it's not going to cut the mustard.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, if you go to the co-op, they have their bin with all their bagels and cookies, and they have a sign on each section. Like they have one big sort of cabinet thing, and all the ingredients are listed in front of the row of the product. So, and it's not saran wrapped. They use the tongs or the paper. So, Brian will find out more what that requirement is, but we cannot be lenient on state regulations. So that as far as the individually wrapped item, you would have to do that or figure out another process.
Yeah, how large does a label have to be? I mean, can I squeeze like on a label this big then instead of using a regular bakery label? Is there any?
Now, I'm looking at the requirements now, Judy. I don't believe there's a size requirement as long as everything that's required that's listed to be on there is, clearly, visible and readable. I think that's really the only requirement. There's no specific size requirement.
So I can look into see if there's some other labels that are, less expensive because to go that way.
No,
Yeah,
well, I mean, you're gonna look into it more, Brian, but I was just thinking, what if you could if you could print like tiny paper things with the ingredients that they could take with them, like that might even be cheaper than a label, but I don't know if that would follow the code or not.
no, we probably have to tape it onto each one of the items.
Yeah, because they would get sort of lost and confused, I think, if they weren't attached, but
Because these items are just in there for a day.
Yeah.
It's not,
but
so.
still, yeah, it just poses a risk. Like I mean, just from
But to be honest, I think there's more of a risk when they're not wrapped because you have cross contamination. Because even though we have them in the baskets, people put this into there and that into here, and you've got, items touching each other. You've got items with nuts touching items without nuts, and But I understand the law says it's packaged, it's not labeled, but
sort of stuck there.
I think it's just crazy. I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around it because I think this way is better than keeping them loose.
Yeah.
So,
Anything else you want to add, Brian, or?
No, that's it. No, tomorrow I'll look into that more for you, Judy, and I'll also, just in case you need it again, I'll send you the attachment that I have from the state that lists all of the requirements for those labels. All right.
and I'll talk to Brian tomorrow, who's here, our POS person, and see if he can come up with something with a smaller label, not to have to use those large bakery labels, something that's a little cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, like I said, there's no size requirement as long as everything's clearly visible and readable.
Okay, we will work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your input. It was, I know it's not your desired outcome, but I'm glad.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So next is updated language. Oh, Beth and I are the right persons to be here for this one. Updated language and body art regulations to give discretion to the director and/or board health agent to approve items that do not require a variance. Brian, it's your show.
So this is a project that I started when Bree left. Or shortly before Bree left. We noticed in the code, a lot of it states, specific things need to be approved by the board. Bree was communicating with the city attorney and finding out legally what we should add in there. And the attorney recommended that we add in the definition of agent, which I added in there. And then I went through the code and I found any area that it states, submit for Board of Health approval, et cetera, worded something in that manner. If you open up the code, if you're looking at it, all the areas highlighted in red are where it was added. Nothing really complicated was added. Essentially, just like I said, I just added the definition of agent, and then I essentially added or its agent after the Board of Health in those sections.
Okay.
Sounds good. Is it something we're supposed to approve or?
Yes, yeah. So it's just because I made some changes to the regulations and I added in a definition. You just need to approve this revised copy of it. And like I said, and it doesn't it doesn't apply to anything that requires a variance for them to, or it's something that would require an establishment to come in front of the board.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's only things such as something that I think Bree mentioned at previous meeting. Sometimes we get out of state guest body art artists, and the states that they come from don't have the same requirements as Massachusetts does. So sometimes, and if they're unable to, if they work in a state where they're not permitted, they need to be able to provide proof that they're adequate in their skills and they've been doing it for a specific amount of years. So oftentimes we'll get a signed letter from the owner and operator of the establishment that they're at. And, so situations like that we would just, that way.
Instead of waiting for a meeting, which.
Correct.
by then-
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that conversation.
Yeah, I did
Yep.
too.
Yeah. So it's just situations like that.
So it just gives you a little more authority to make a quick decision. Okay.
Mhm.
I was just gonna say, I reviewed it previously, so I'm good with it. I can make a motion to accept the revisions to the body art regulations that Brian just presented to us.
To give discretion to the director and board
Discretion, yep, to the director.
to approve items that don't require variance. Okay. Do you want me to say the whole thing and then you can just agree, second it?
I can open it and read it verbatim, if that makes it easier.
Yeah, just to make it official.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to revise my previous motion and make a motion to accept the updated language in body art regulations to give discretion to the director and or board of health agent to approve items that do not require a variance.
I second that motion. All in favor, Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
All right. Okay, next. Boy, we have a big agenda, don't we?
I know.
Yeah. There's a lot of items.
Well, we haven't had a meeting in a little while. Okay, Old Colony Package Store and Union Mart tobacco use compliance violations observed by
It's PVTC, which is the Pioneer Valley Tobacco Coalition.
Okay.
So they do enforcement for tobacco violations in this area. So they did an inspection on April 16th, one of their control officers. And they observed at both Old Colony and Union Mart on the same day where a youth entered the store, was able to purchase nicotine products without getting ID'd or age verified. So Meredith O'Leary from Northampton, who works for the Pioneer Valley Tobacco Commission, she emailed me and informed me of these violations and what's required by state law. So according to the state law, for first violations for an offense like this, it comes with a $1,000 fine and then a permit suspension by the Board of Health for up to 30 days of tobacco sales. Essentially, we will be issuing the fine, and then this evening, the Board of Health will just have to decide on how long they want to suspend the permit. Now, this is something I'm not very familiar with. I don't do too much tobacco, regulation and compliance. But from what Meredith O'Reilly told me, she said typically local boards of health usually will do just a few days. But it's at your discretion. But whenever the board decides, I will issue the letter of notice of the fine and the violation.
Maggie, you were here before when we had those violate. Okay.
Yep. So just in my brain, to be clear, so they'll be issued the fine and then we have to decide how long we're suspending tobacco sales. Is that what we're suspending?
Correct. Yeah. And it's up to 30 days maximum.
Okay. Is this the first time Old Colony's been cited?
Yes, yeah. So that's the criteria for a first offense violation. So
Oh.
both stores, both stores. So I can kind of quickly read to you kind of what follows if there are additional violations, just so you kind of have an idea.
Okay.
So in the case of a first violation, a fine of $1,000 and a permit suspension up to 30 days. In the case of a second violation, within 36 months of the date of the current violation, a fine of $2,000 shall be issued, with the tobacco product sales permit shall be suspended for 7 consecutive business days. In the case of 3 or more violations within a 36-month period, a fine of $5,000 would be issued, and tobacco product sales would be suspended for 30 consecutive business days.
Okay.
So that's interesting. The first violation can be up to 30, but they're saying the second is like 7 days. So that
Yeah.
the first violation should just be a few days, probably.
Yeah. So,
And Maggie, to your question about the first violation, while it's not the first violation in our time for Union Mart, I believe it's the first violation outside of their tolling period. Do you remember them talking about that? Brian said 36 months.
yeah.
That's it. So due to COVID and the fact that they weren't doing,
Right. No one was.
he's considered a first violation in this time period.
Okay.
Even though it's not his first, it is this time around.
He's outside the 36 months. Yep. Okay. All right. Beth, I'm thinking 3 days. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, I have not. This is the first time I've had to make this decision since I've been on the board, so I don't really know if we have any precedent here. But I think,
and you'll have to determine when it starts and what are the 3 days. What 3 days are you telling him? Which 3 days that permit is suspended?
Okay.
like the exact dates, you mean?
Yeah. Which makes sense. So you would mail it out tomorrow, Brian?
Yeah, I can get a letter draft sent up, or created, and I can send it out by the end of the day tomorrow. Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know what.
I don't
Do we
know.
need to give them some notice?
So, I mean, if I send it out by tomorrow, it should get there, I'm assuming, by no later than Monday, hopefully earlier than that. But
Because I was thinking Monday.
Yeah,
Monday.
that's what I was thinking.
On Monday
but maybe
through
we
Wednesday. You're shaking your head.
I'm not sure. Well, I question it because I'm not sure if that's one of the notices that has to go certified mail to let him know.
correct, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
have to look into
So
that.
he
And-
would get it within 24 hours then, right? If it was.
Well, it depends on our mail system. I mean, Brian works it up. It has to be brought upstairs, done through the postage, and then it's all determined when the mail is picked up, when it goes out. But remember, the building's closed on Friday, so it's not being
I know.
picked up on
Not
Friday.
gonna. So maybe we should not do Monday, Beth. I'm just afraid we would have an overlap there.
And he's got the right to appeal it.
That is correct, yes. They do have the right to appeal.
Usually, how much time do they usually have to put in an appeal?
I don't remember. It's been a while since we've had one of those. I don't know. I don't know if Brian can pull that up. I don't know that.
Right, or is it like? Yeah, I don't know. I think we need to know.
I'm not sure if you need to give him the notification with the date on it, then he's going to appeal it, or if you need to send him a notice that this is going to happen and then a date will be determined. I'm not sure.
I mean, we could play it safe and say like, as of June 1st.
Yeah, I'm okay
nice.
with doing that.
Yeah.
And then that way we have a little time if he wants to
Right.
appeal or.
Yeah,
And
the only thing,
if he
Okay.
appeals it, then at that point, if you deny him his appeal, then you can say, okay, well, we didn't have the meeting in time, so then here's the new date for the suspension.
okay.
To say, Maggie?
I guess I would just want Brian to find out, like, if there is a time frame for the appeal process.
Yeah, I can look
It
into
can
that.
say June 1st unless there's some ridiculous amount. Usually people have a short period of time to appeal something like that.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure that,
Well,
you know,
we could probably make a motion that it is leaves that gray, right? Like saying these dates unless unless they file appeal within the time
whatever
allotted
time
by
frame.
state law or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you might want to get some help when you draft that letter, Brian.
Okay.
I make sure that we are doing due diligence with the regulations around this, and
Mhm.
that he does have whatever the time frame is to appeal, or they do. It's not just one person. And then we can, if it's going to be June 1st, great. I don't know if we have to re-meet for a date. I mean, we can just make it, like make the language so that it starts after the appeal time is over.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll communicate with Meredith O'Leary. So she's been very informative with everything.
Yeah, and yep, maybe even ask her like for like an example of a draft of what they send.
Yeah, she might have some sort of template, which is
Yep. I just don't want to leave anything open to making a mistake.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So, go
yeah.
ahead, Beth. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say. So, is this something that we need to table, or can we just make a sort of a
I think we can make a decision. I think we just need, like, if we say, decision to implement the first step of $1,000 fine and 3 days of suspension of their permit, pending, dates pending appeal rights. And I don't know, something like that.
yeah.
Dates to be determined.
Dates to be determined, right?
Dates to be determined after the time frame for appeals has passed, or something like that.
Right. And so we can, and it's going to be for 3 days.
Yep.
So we can say, okay, so I'll put a motion forward to uphold the decision or decision to implement the $1,000 fine and a 3-day suspension of their permit, dates to be determined after the appeals rights timeframe is complete. And the did I say 3 days?
Yep.
Does that sound like?
I think you've got your bases covered, and I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we need to mention Old Colony and
In Union Mart?
Yes.
in that motion? So I'll addend that
Yep.
motion with that information,
All right. Are
Yeah.
you want
and
to?
I will second that revised motion.
So the revised, you got that?
Yep. And I've got transcripts.
Okay. So the revised motion, Old Colony and Union Mart be fined $1,000 and a 3-day suspension of their permit pending the appeal time. So dates to be determined for the suspension.
I second that motion.
All in favor, Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
Okay.
God,
That's the word finding tonight is just.
I know. I feel like that's been my life lately. Ugh. Okay. Update from the interim health director, Mr. Chapdelaine.
All right. No, I don't have too much to add outside of what was on the agenda. I just kind of wanted to update you about a few things. I know that back in 2021, you guys handled 40 Church Street with Remanuel Sola. He was the gentleman that was wanted access approval of the camper after his house burnt down for the temporary living. So just to kind of give you just a quick rundown, just a quick review. With the Board of Health requirements, the Mr. Sola needed to get sign-offs from all the departments in town before he could be granted full approval to live there. And if he did do that, it was only up for a period of 9 months. And then he would have to go through reapproval if it was longer than that. So shortly after the board approved this or voted on this, Bree sent out a letter to Mr. Sola and with all the signature spots that he needed to fill. Unfortunately, he never did those requirements. So yeah, it went about. So we're over 2 years now. So on May 8th, the city took him to court. Myself and the lawyer went, the city attorney. And the judge ordered him to remove the RV off the property within 2 weeks. So that should be by like midweek next week.
Next week? Okay.
Yeah. So I drove by actually yesterday, and the RV is still there. So I was just kind of checking up on things. So I did let him know that if he wants to pursue the process again, he has to let me know. But for the time being, until he does the specific requirements, he can't live on the property in the RV. So hopefully it's off there next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there something about the amount of cars? Was that part of it too, or no? I can't remember now.
So for the health department's concerns, our concerns with the cars, the unregistered cars, actually enforcement's done under the police department.
Okay.
There was a concern about the number of unregistered vehicles.
Yep.
But I know that majority of them were actually registered. So I know that when we did the original inspection, it was myself, Dan Constantine, the fire inspector, and BJ, the building commissioner. A police officer came by too, and he ran the plates, and I think he met the requirements of their law.
Okay.
I think you're allowed to have one unregistered vehicle.
Yeah.
The people who have the neighbors who have filed the complaints, one in particular has concerns about the other items. But I told her that they're really not violating any public health law at this moment. Just our concerns is just, he's not allowed to live there without, the requirements. Yep. So, yep. So that's that. And then, unfortunately, going back to tobacco real quickly, I got another email from Meredith O'Leary actually yesterday. So the the Massachusetts Department of Revenue actually seized untaxed nicotine products that Valley Farms convenience store on Northampton Street was in possession of. So the state is suspending their electronic nicotine delivery systems retailer's license for a period of 60 days starting June 15th. So I talked to Meredith yesterday about that. I'm just going to be, during that 60-day period when it starts on the 15th, I'll just kind of do sporadic inspections and just kind of make sure that they're in compliance. They're not selling what they're not, what they're not supposed to be selling. And I'll update Meredith as needed. So,
Didn't they get cited not that long ago for something with the flavored?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
yes. So yeah, flavored,
That
and
was
they
a
had
different owner though.
Yeah,
Oh, it's the new owner
it was
now?
a different owner. Yeah, and then they actually just it just changed ownership less than 2 months ago.
Oh,
But I think it was a year or two ago. They also had illegal like the fake THC products.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So yes, that's it for the tobacco. And then nothing really else. We're just getting into our busy season. Camps are nearing around the corner. We have I think we have about 10 this year. So I'll be doing the inspections. Bridget will help me out with those as well.
Good.
Yep. And then a lot of weekend events coming up. I am doing the farmers market this Sunday. And then
You mean a table?
No, I'll be inspecting.
Oh, inspecting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then we have cultural
winter.
chaos. Cultural chaos coming up on June 10th, and then Thunder in the Valley 2 weeks after that. June, end of May, June's always a very busy time for us because a lot of the camps open at the end of June. So a lot of the application process and the inspection process happens within the next month or so.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad Bridget's able to help. So that makes sense.
Yeah. She handles like there's immunization record requirements. So she helps me with that.
Good. All right. Sounds like you're busy.
Oh yeah.
All right. Any other questions, Beth, or anything for Brian?
Nope. Thank you for the update.
No problem.
So next on the agenda is a candidate for the Director of Health position that I wanted Beth and Jackie and Brian to meet. Her name is Allison Egan. I think she's still on.
Yep, I see her. Can you unmute yourself, Allison? There you go.
Here I am. Hi.
And Emily, if you want to chime in, you need to unmute yourself too. Emily Russo.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I'll just let Allison, take a few minutes to, tell us why she's here, why she's interested in the job, and what she wants to bring. Go for it, Al.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. Hi, everybody. I'm Allison Egan. I'm currently a principal planner with the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. I've been with the Planning Commission in the Public Health Department for about 8 years. I have my graduate degree in epidemiology. I have a Master of Science from UMass Amherst and a Bachelor of Science in Public Health, also from UMass Amherst. And so my role right now is, it's kind of a two-part role. I do provide professional planning services in public health through the commission to all 32 municipalities in Berkshire County. And then I also provide professional staff support to the Berkshire County Boards of Health Association, which is an association of all 32 boards of health in Berkshire County. So because, and as I'm sure you're all well aware, the towns and many of the hill towns have very, very small boards, volunteer only boards, and boards with no professional staff. So we like to be able to provide the professional staff support where we can through the Berkshire County Boards of Health Association. And I've been doing that since for 7 to 8 years since I've been with the commission. I've really enjoyed that piece of it. Some of my areas of specialty are climate justice, environmental justice, and climate adaptation planning. I work a lot in just general public health, quality of life improvement initiatives around the county. And I work really heavily with our environmental health department at the agency as well. So my work spans many, many projects. I do a lot of emergency preparedness as well. So I'm happy to expand on any of the project areas or specialty areas that you're interested in. Really why I applied for this position, and I'm excited for the opportunity, is that for several years I've supported many, many communities, and I've really felt I've been able to make an impact. But what I would love to do is serve one community and really be able to see projects through. And I lived in the Valley. I lived in Northampton and Florence for about 6 years. Initially, when I was working in the Berkshires, I was commuting from the Valley, and I'm really fond of the area and familiar with Easthampton as well. And I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Allison?
Hi, Allison. I'm Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Meet you. Thanks for being here. How in your job in the Berkshires, were you involved much with like the sort of day-to-day stuff at all, like with inspections and things like that?
Yeah, so I haven't personally conducted inspections. We tend to provide, so what typically my involvement with boards for regulations and inspectional services will be to sort of understand what the regulations say from the state and translate that for the boards, share the information as it comes out from the state to the boards, and then filter any sort of like questions or guidance boards need in addition to just what the regulations say. So if, there's some nuanced questions or concerns about regulations, then my team will generally filter that for them or seek clarification from the state. I've not, so we as part of the staff at the commission, we have public health nurses, inspectors, and the more traditional public health services, but I've never, been an inspector myself or gone out on inspections. So that will be something I learn along the way, and hopefully can provide some of that staff support, where it's needed with the department as well.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Do you have any questions for us, Allison?
So I guess I'd like to know just like a little bit about maybe the board members here, if you want to share anything about your backgrounds with me, since I'm newer to the group. But also just curious to hear what, and from Brian too, like what have been sort of like the hot button items or, the biggest concerns or things that have kind of floated to the top of the board's issues that they've taken up in the last, year or so. You're all much more knowledgeable of that than me, and I'd love to hear from you.
Do you want to go? Go ahead.
Okay. My background, I'm a physician assistant. I work at Bay State, which is where I am right now. But I grew up in Easthampton. My father's been a city councilman in Easthampton for as long as there's been a city council. So I definitely have an interest in being involved in Easthampton governance in some capacity. So that explains my role here. So I'm learning a lot as well in terms of public health. It's a lot more than, pandemics. But I think I've only been here like a year. Early on, it was COVID, masks, things like that were the hot button topics. Now it's sort of a mix, and it seems to vary. But nothing really that, like, since I've been here, the pandemic's been the thing that draws, lots of people to our meetings. But I've learned a lot in this role about, public health and in a small city like ours, and what that means and what that involves.
Yep. And well, we've met Allison. So my background is I'm a registered nurse. I did hospital nursing, home care nursing for 18 years. And then I work for an insurance company now in a care management department. I manage a team of 13. And I've been on the board a while. Jackie was when Jackie Duda was still here. So
Over 5 years.
Yeah, before the pandemic, and same as Beth. I was like, wait, this isn't about flu and so yeah, you definitely learn a lot. And then of course, I was the chair during the pandemic, so you learned even more. But I love, and I moved to Easthampton back in around 2016. So I just wanted to be part of the city and contribute and give back. So, and I love our little city. It's like our little Whoville. It's been great working with we've had a lot of changes over the last several years, and Jackie's our steadfast person who's been here forever, and we've expanded, as you know, to having a social worker, a nurse.
Yeah.
And now, director and health inspector to come. So, yeah. And there's one other board member, Amy, who is not here this evening. And her background is actually in public health. Do you know her, Amy?
I don't think so.
Beth, you probably know her. Like, she used to be the health agent for, it was either East Longmeadow or Longmeadow.
Yeah, she was the health director in East Longmeadow. Prior to that, she did inspections for like a company that did a lot of chain restaurants. It was like a national company. She has a ton of experience with all this stuff. And now she works for the state, but I don't remember what her job is, but it's in the same vein, but
she's well versed on code.
Nice.
Good person to have on the board.
Yeah, it's helpful for Beth and I and everybody
Basically
else.
like having a translator on the board.
Yeah. So that's us. Yeah. And Jackie and Brian, do you want to kind of give your little spiels?
Brian?
I would say, Jackie, if you want to go ahead, but I can go. I've been with the health department for a little over 2 years now. That's when I started my inspector career. I came from a background of EMS. I was an EMT for 6 years, and I worked in food service for about 10 years prior to that. So I have been on the other side of, and have handled an inspector myself, being a former restaurant manager. And when I first started this job, I only thought about food inspections. There's so much more than that. There's a lot of obscure things that the health department handles.
And so many of them have shown up in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And actually, it was quite funny. Once Bree left, things that I've never experienced before just started rolling in my direction. So, but it's nice. It's kind of, it's a good learning experience. And, there's so much, we cover so much code and regulation that, always learning, always evolving, and things that we might miss on one year, we're going to see we might see the next year, and so yeah, so I've been, like I said, I've been here for a little over 2 years now. I love working for Easthampton. It's a good community. There's a lot of local businesses, which is nice. Yeah, and in regards to kind of like, what's been like any hot topics. Last year we added a social worker. Her name's Elizabeth Plouffe. She's been busy since the second she got here. So there's definitely there's been definitely a need in regards to that for her, providing mental health resources, or she deals with I collaborate with her a lot in regards to like unsanitary housing locations, like hoarding situations, and we've had a lot of those recently, where Liz was involved and she was able to kind of connect everybody with the services that they needed.
Great.
Yeah, so I know Bridget has been, busy doing her thing. We haven't done any clinics recently. But yeah, I know we're always busy. This is, like I said, this is our busiest time of the year. Recreational camps are a blast. There's a lot to them. And yeah, so.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Jackie.
Well, 10 years, seen lots of stuff. Started in the department with just an agent. We didn't have a director back then, just the agent and me. We had a nurse, but she was only 10 hours a week, and very limited on what she did. The pandemic changed. I mean, we now have Bridget, who's 26 hours a week, I forget. Liz, who's 40 hours a week, our social worker. Bree fought tooth and nail and got her director title. Brian was hired as the agent and as inspector, and now will become, as far as I understand, will be the agent and then an inspector under him. So, and I still only work 10 hours a week and still get my job done.
She does. She's phenomenal. Especially during the pandemic, Jackie was like the go-to.
Wow.
But it's interesting, and no kidding, the last 6 weeks, the amount of things that have come through our office that Brian didn't see, but it's like the pandemic is ending, so life is becoming back to normal, and all those things that Bree said, oh, geez, I wish when it was back to normal. Yeah, I'm wishing the pandemic would come back. So just saying, we've got beaver issues, camps who don't submit their stuff on time on a regular basis. We've got Brian had to go to a crime scene cleanup, public records requests, unbelievable. And then the state seizing someone's tobacco. That's in 10 years that I've been here, never had that happen.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a doozy. So, yeah. So I have institutional knowledge.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more stories. Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
So you want to stay.
That's it. And so Allison, thanks for coming tonight, and you're welcome to stay. We're only going to go over, kind of try and come up with a meeting schedule because we've been kind of all over the place with that, but I'm glad you were able to come and meet the team, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I really feel like I got to know you all a little bit here, so that's really nice. And I'll probably step off, but I appreciate your time, and I look forward, hopefully, to working with you all in the future.
Great.
Thanks
Thanks,
for your time.
Allison. Have a great evening.
You too.
Oh, all right. Whew. Okay, the big hot topic. Trying to come up with. So like all of us, I just feel like I am so much more busy now than I ever was in my whole life. I don't know what it is, and I'm sure everybody feels that way. But I feel as a service to Easthampton, we need to try and come up with monthly cadence for our meetings so that we're not always kind of flying by the seat of our pants. That way, Brian can be prepared. People can, all of us kind of chalk a certain piece of time to block off as best we can for this meeting. So I don't know if, like the last time we talked about this, Beth, you were thinking your schedule might become a little more flexible because of some changes at Bay State, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not necessarily flexible, but it's predictable.
Oh, right.
More predictable. So like I can tell you, like, for example, Wednesdays, I'm generally speaking available to do this. Like if I stay at work and it's on Zoom, it's very easy. But
Okay.
because I know I cover the service till 5 and then I'm done. So for the most part, Wednesdays are good after 5. For the most part, like I have a block set. I'm looking at my schedule. That's why I keep looking away. But like I know there's like days where I won't be here late. So it depends on which week of the month it is and which day of the week, but it's predictable. I just don't know what Amy's what her limitations are like, but my day is not going to be the same every week. Like it's just random. So I can give you a bunch of days, like I can put them in an email if that's easier. Be like, here are the days that I should be able to make a meeting, and then see if we can work it out, work backwards from there. I don't know.
So Wednesdays after 5 are not consistent every month, or?
So they are, except, I mean, the nature of what I do, like
I know if something comes in at 4 o'clock.
Service is super busy. I sometimes will get stuck here till like 5:30. But again, like if we're doing Zoom, I should be able to do that. Like that, usually it's predictable. The residents are off at 5, so they take over at 5. So if I'm like, well, I have a meeting at 5:30. Sorry, I can't help you anymore. That I leave. Like it can be a hard out. So
Yeah.
I think Wednesday is a good consistent day for me.
Okay.
But Amy's not here, so I don't know if that works.
I know. So how far ahead do you get your schedule? Like, do you get it?
I can only predict no more than 2 weeks in advance.
Oh.
In terms of the OR schedule, but I again, I can say
Wednesdays.
for example, every second Thursday of the month, there's no OR for my service for any QIU. So like the second Thursday of the month, I know I'll be getting out at a reasonable time. So
okay.
That's what I mean. Like it's sort of random, but
Yeah. Okay.
but there is some predictability.
Okay. So we could do Wednesdays after 5 or every second Thursday of a month.
Yeah,
much.
like whatever time, like 4:35, whatever.
Okay. So
And Zoom is allowed now for like
Yeah.
another year. So
Yep. So we're good for this format. And I guess we can either Jackie or Brian, or I can check in with Amy. I'm not sure. I feel like I haven't seen Amy since, I don't know when, like it's been a while. And yeah. So why don't I send her an email? Well, I'll have to send it to all of us, right? What's the,
mm-mm.
no, I can't.
Right, you can't. You can send one to Amy, you can send one to Beth,
Yeah,
and then you can
what I'll
send us, but you can't do Amy
do both of
and
them
Beth.
at the same time. I just did that training today. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just also add that Tuesdays are probably not a good day for me because yeah, it's just too unpredictable.
That's okay. That's all right. As long as we have as much predictability as possible. And at least we have two choices. And we can also alternate it. Like if you find out, I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. Like before the pandemic, we were pretty consistent, but if somebody had a conflict, we would change it for that month. But just so, like when we have a meeting, Brian has to post it 48 hours of business days ahead. So basically 2 weeks excluding holidays and weekends. So that's part of it. Like we have to have at least that much notice if we're going to have a meeting, because he has to send the posting out to the papers and all that stuff.
The clerk, the city clerk, typically they want agendas submitted the Thursday, the week before. So usually they like it. They like it so like this week's agenda, I submitted it prior to last Thursday. I submitted it like on Wednesday, but they like it by Thursday. But
Yeah, that's the agenda, but legally you have to post the public meeting to
the hearings.
Yeah, 2 weeks ahead. So that's part of why it's just, and it's helpful personally for me if I know I have like every Wednesday, every Thursday, whatever it is, I know not to schedule anything. I'm
for it too. I'd rather not fill out doodle polls every month.
I know. That's the other thing. I'm like, I want another one.
There might be other days too. So let's start with those two and see how that works. And then.
Yeah. So I'll email Amy once I find out what her availability is. And quite honestly, I'm not even really sure she wants to continue. So I did ask about that if there's only two of us. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But I just because I haven't talked to her in so long, I'm not really sure where her head is right now. So so more to come on what she can and is able to do.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay. And in the meantime, just in case, if you know anyone, just as a backup in case. But,
I mean, I'll say she hasn't mentioned anything to me. I mean, but
okay.
Because we're social, we're social together, and
I know, yeah. Well, that's good. So hopefully we can get something for all of us that works.
Okay, sounds good.
And that's all I have on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm really hungry, so
Yeah.
You need to have a protein bar in your drawer.
I did, and I ate it the other day. I was here till 10 last night.
Oh, Beth, do you have to work tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Drive home safely.
It's been a week. Anyway. So yeah, if we're done, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Board of Health meeting on 5/17/2023 at 6:49 p.m.
I second that motion. All in favor, Maggie, yes.
Beth, yes.
Yay.
Yay.
Bye.
We got a meeting in.
Nice meeting, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, I'm ending the recording. Okay.